I got a Viking mug. I feel like I'm going to need that in the near future for reasons. I'm not sure. Hey, everybody. How you doing today? Teching and Barry back again. Hey, you know the really cool thing, or one of the cool things, like the 20-second cool thing about this new lighting setup I have? I can make it seem like there's a really cool rave happening off to my left at any given time. Like, yeah, check out that party over there. I might want to go check that out at the end of the video. Yeah, I'm going to go over there, see what's going on. Anyway, I feel like it's a Shanks video, so I feel like I should go red with this. That's cool, but actually, you know what? Maybe a little bit more burnt orange. Oh, that's cool. That's more orange than red, but, you know, whatever. Some people are colorblind. Okay. Anyway, I don't know. I think I'm partially colorblind. I'm not really sure. I haven't, taken one of those, like, those eye test things, but I think I am a little bit. Anyway, so, today's video, we're going to be talking about the origins of Shanks. He was found in a treasure chest by Roger. That's pretty much it right there. I mean, that is canon. That is the story. I mean, there's a little bit more to elaborate on, but that's essentially the gist of it. That's the video right there. Thanks for watching, everybody. I don't have any snake facts today, so see ya. Okay. So this information was dropped alongside Film Red. So there was a little pamphlet that came alongside Film Red that was volume 4 billion, which I just gotta say, we're only up to volume 101 here in the States. So Japan is like way ahead. I thought they were only a couple of volumes ahead, but no, we have volume 101, they have volume 4 billion, all right? But no, volume 4 billion was the little pamphlet that was released alongside Film Red, called volume 4 billion because of Shanks's bounty, okay? It's actually a little higher than 4 billion, but I could see they rounded down, okay? So, in the movie itself, Film Red, there is a hint, there is an implication that, Shanks, references that the way that the red-haired pirates found Uta was very similar to the way that Roger found Shanks, okay? Because in the movie, it was shown that after Shanks, captured a bunch of treasure, when in the early days of the Red Hair crew, they defeated a ship and they got a bunch of treasure, and there was a big treasure chest, and they heard a baby crying inside of the treasure chest, so they opened it up, and sure enough, baby Uta was inside the treasure chest, and that's the story of how Shanks became a dad. And we see a brief flashback in the movie where it's parallel to Roger and Rayleigh and Scopper Gabon opening a treasure chest, and then Shanks is recalling that from his memory, okay? So it's hinted at in the movie, but it's directly actually shown in the volume 4 billion that came alongside the movie that actually had a manga panel, not a whole chapter, but like 2 pages of a manga chapter drawn by Oda. And it shows the not the Red Hair crew, it shows the Rogers pirates, it shows the Oro Jackson sailing away from God Valley, being attacked, bombarded by Marine warships, and then Roger and the crew being like, "Yar, matey, we defeated rocks at God Valley, and some other stuff probably happened there too, but whatever, we got this treasure!" And so they're escaping the Marines, they manage to get away from God Valley, and then they hear crying coming from one of the treasure chests. So Roger opens it up, and they look inside, and sure enough, there's baby Shanks, and Shanks is like a year old, because he was born 39 years ago, and then 38 years ago was God Valley. And so, yeah, 1-year-old Shanks wearing like a baby onesie that's covered in stars and suns and moons. Wonder if that's gonna be relevant at all? Probably not. Just gonna take a drink from my Viking cup really quick. Ah, that's good cold coffee that's been sitting here for the last 2 hours. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. Roger opened up the treasure chest. Baby Shanks is in there, and he's like, "Yar, matey, we found a baby! I guess we be pirate daddies now." And it's just like, I guess, and that's the story of how Roger became a father. I have a legitimate question here. Who is this madman that keeps kidnapping babies and throwing them in treasure chests? Because this has happened twice now in the One Piece world, which, granted, is not a lot of times, but it's about 2 times more than you think it would happen. You know what I mean? It's just there's some madman in the One Piece world kidnapping babies, throwing them in treasure chests, and then throwing them on pirate ships. It's a serious problem, matey. Okay, so the situation with Uta in the movie, I mean, that's okay. Uta might turn out to be actually a canon character, but Oda's gonna have to spin it in a similar way to Shiki, where Shiki's a canon character, it's just everything that happened in the movie was non-canon, but in order to make that work with Uta's character, you really gotta change a lot of stuff around. So the only way I can see Uta being canon is if everything that happened with Uta and the red hair crew up until they arrived at Fuchsia Village is the same. Like, Shanks finds Uta in a treasure chest, and then Uta eventually dies before they even reach Fuchsia, before Luffy even meets her. That's the only way I could see Shanks actually still, like, having Uta as his daughter, okay? Except she dies, you know, like, at a young age, and maybe that's still, like, a cloud that hangs over Shanks' head or something, because Oda did draw her silhouette during, like, chapter, I think it was 1053, so who knows, right? It's possible. But anyway, we're really not here to talk about Uta. That's just like the catalyst for the actual story, where Shanks was found in a treasure chest on God Valley that the Roger pirates stole. Okay, so that means that something happened that Shanks ended up at God Valley. And I bring up that brought to God Valley because Shanks is actually from the West Blue. Now, this is not something that was just referenced in a data book that Oda could easily retcon, because that does happen every once in a while. A data book or a Vivra card, you know, will have a, you know, oh, this is the origin of this character. This is the ocean where they came from, the Grand Line or the West Blue or something. And it could turn out to be, like, not really true, and then there could be a retcon, and it's like, okay, it was only mentioned in this one data book like 6 years ago. You can change that. No, this was directly referenced by Shanks. Shanks directly told Whitebeard when they had their meeting to discuss Blackbeard and Ace and everything way back after Ennie's lobby. Remember, Shanks brought some sake for Whitebeard, gives it to him. You know, Whitebeard takes a swig and he's like, ugh, sake from the West Blue, huh? Didn't know you were such a cheapskate, Shanks. And Shanks is like, oh, come on, Pops. It's a specialty from my hometown, you know? I've been all over the world, and I've drank a lot of sake, trust me. But this sake, something a little special, you know? It's that hometown spirit that really gives it that flavor, you know? And Whitebeard drinks it, and he's like, yeah, this isn't so bad. This is pretty good, you know? And they begin to reminisce a little bit, okay? So Shanks directly told Whitebeard, hey, I'm from the West Blue. This is from my hometown, all right? Now, I don't think... Oh, no, Uta fell down, revealing the fact I'm using a Vinland Saga book back here as the as the prop holder for this. Like, okay, here we go. Okay, so the situation with Shanks, considering he was only, you know, a year old when they found him at God Valley, I don't think Shanks has a lot of really fond memories of his hometown. Certainly not the flavor of the hometown sake special, you know, when he was a baby, all right? I mean, I don't know. Shanks might have been a hard-drinking alcoholic baby, for all we know. I just don't know, you know, but I highly doubt that. The implication later on when Odin was on the crew and Momonosuke and Hiyori were born was that Roger was like holding up baby Momo and was like, oh, it's been a while, matey, since we last had a baby on the ship, and implying the last time was with Shanks. So the idea is that they found Shanks as a baby, but it doesn't necessarily say that, like, Roger was changing diapers for several years and stuff and making sure everything was, like, raising Shanks on the crew. It's possible that Roger went back to the West Blue, dropped Shanks off, like, this is your hometown, we found your baby, here you go, and then came back later to pick Shanks up, and he left as an apprentice on Roger's crew. I guess that's a possibility. Also, it could have been after everything with Roger had occurred. Shanks was around. Actually, you know what? That does kind of make sense, because after the events of Roger finding the One Piece, becoming king of the pirates, being executed and all that, you know, Shanks is like 14, 15 years old at that point. So, you know, going back to his hometown, like, oh, maybe they knew where he was from. Like, they had the name of the island. It's just that Roger never got around to traveling there, but Shanks growing up knew where he was from, but he chose to, even when he got old enough to know and understand everything, he's like, oh, okay, I'm from this town in the West Blue. Whatever, it doesn't matter. You guys are my family. Roger, you're my dad, essentially. You've been my father my whole life, essentially. So it doesn't matter too much. I don't want to go home. But then after Roger dies and the crew disbands, or rather the crew disbands and then Roger dies, Shanks is like a teenager, and he's like, okay, you know what? I'm going to head back home. I'm going to go home to the West, and I'm going to see what this place is all about. So he goes back to the West for a little while, hangs out there, and then a couple of years go by, and then he decides, I'm going to start my own pirate crew. But that doesn't really work either, because there's a scene in Strong World that takes place like right after Roger's execution, or like a couple of years after Roger's execution, and Shanks is already gathering up a crew in the East. Like Shanks is already in the East Blue gathering information, meeting Yasopp and asking him to join. So yeah, I'm not really sure about that one either. You know what I mean? It's like, huh. I'm not really sure when Shanks got the time to go back to this town in the West Blue and actively spend like enough time there that he would become attached to like, oh, this is the special sake in my hometown. You know, I'm not really sure when this occurred. It might have, I mean, honestly, it could have just happened well after he became a pirate of his own crew. I guess that makes sense. I guess it doesn't have to have been when he was a kid. It could have been, you know, he was in God Valley. Roger found him. He was raised on Roger's crew the entire time when he was a kid. Roger died, and then he immediately left Logtown to start building up his own crew. Met Yasopp, Ben Beckman, Lucky Roo, everybody like that, and then gathered up a crew. And then after exploring a little bit, then they went back to the West Blue, and Shanks spent some time there in his 20s, you know, and then, you know, it was like, wow, this is really good sake, and then that's it, okay? But of course, you know, the main issue here is not when Shanks started drinking alcohol. The big issue is, how did Shanks end up in God Valley? That's probably the main focus of this seminar, okay? If he was truly born in the West, how do you end up at God Valley, which is in the Grand Line, which is purportedly in the New World, okay? It is now not even charted on any map. How do you even get there? Well, that actually has a very simple explanation, and that explanation is the Heavenly Tribute. Yeah, so, the Heavenly Tribute is essentially the tax that every island that is allied with the world government has to pay. I think it's every year. I don't know if it's ever actually been stated that if it's like yearly tax or if it's like a biannual one, like every 2 years. But at any rate, there is a tax that needs to be paid in order to stay a member of the world government, in order to appease the Tenryubito and to gain the protection of the Marines. If you do not forfeit over the Heavenly Tribute, then, you know, you are dropped from the world government and the Marines will no longer assist you with anything, okay? Which is not a good thing for a lot of these islands that are pillaged by pirates and everything like that, okay? Now, I like to think the Heavenly Tribute is different for every island. If you are a very wealthy kingdom that has like a lot of gold, and you like, you know, like let's say you're some kind of corrupt king that like takes all of the money from your citizens, you might just send that money or a portion of it, a percentage of it, to the Tenryubito. I'm sure the tax is a little bit higher if you're a very wealthy kingdom. But let's say you're a kingdom that doesn't really have a lot of money, but you have a lot of, you know, I don't know, minerals or something to be mined on the island, some kind of natural resource, something of that nature. You know, maybe just a lot of shiny gems that, you know, like the Tenryubito seem to enjoy, or they like that, you know, or whatever. Maybe you could send that instead. Slavery is a thing in One Piece, like it just is. So human labor, you know, slave labor might be a thing that might be handed over in terms of that Heavenly Tribute. I'm sure the Tenryubito, you know, they manipulate this system to whatever they need, okay? So yeah. So it's kind of a dark story, but what if it's a situation where the island that Shanks is from in the West is a rather poor nation, kind of very similar to the island Sphinx where Whitebeard was from, and maybe the island Shanks was from in the West was allied with the world government, but they barely had enough to actually put into the Heavenly Tribute, right? And what if it's a sad situation where it's like we have to literally give up like our child to the Tenryubito? And unless we give up our child, then we're not going to be part of the world government anymore, and we're not going to have protection from the Marines, and then it's going to be worse off. So, like, some poor mother in the West was like, oh, please don't let them take my child, but it's like, it's either that child or, you know, the entire island is, like, ravaged by pirates, and the Marines aren't going to help us. Now, you could throw a lot of problems in this, you know, it's like, okay, well, how did he, you know, like did they feed him on the way there? It's just like, well, whatever, I'm not really sure, I'm just throwing it out there, okay? You know, the particulars are not that big of a deal, but I could see through that mechanism how Shanks, as a 1-year-old, ended up there at God Valley, being born in the West, because otherwise you could just say, if it wasn't so already adamantly explained that Shanks was from the West, you could just simply say that Shanks was a Tenryubito. Shanks was born to a couple of Tenryubito on God Valley, that's where he was from originally, and then during the attack, you know, when Roger and Garp were attacking, they were like, oh, we need to save our child, kind of like Goku, except instead of a Saiyan pod, it's a treasure chest, and like, just throw him in there. So I don't think that was the case. I honestly don't even think anybody put Shanks in the treasure chest. I think he was either just taken there right before the events of the Battle of God Valley, and so the treasure was there already, and so that's what happened. Shanks stole the heavenly tribute of the not Shanks, Roger. I keep mixing them up. Roger stole the heavenly tribute that was on God Valley that they just had there, so they stole it, brought it back to the Oro Jackson, opened it up, and oh, there's a baby in there. Ah, okay. Once again, you could have questions about, like, how did the baby not starve? How did Shanks not die of dehydration inside of a treasure chest for weeks en route to, God Valley? I don't know. He's Shanks, okay? Even as a baby, Shanks is pretty much indestructible. You know what I mean? So there it is, okay? Now, something else that I referenced earlier was that when Shanks was found in the treasure chest, he was wearing, like, a baby onesie that had suns and moons and stars on it, which, you could simply view it as just like, oh, it's just a baby wearing a baby outfit, and that's it, nothing more than that. But considering now we know the significance of the sun god in One Piece, and also the significance of planets and space, like, I don't know if it's going to be a situation where, like, in the final arc of One Piece, we're literally going to rocket into space and have a space adventure, if it's going to be that overt with it. But certainly our solar system and the planets and stars and celestial bodies are extraordinarily relevant, at least from a symbolic perspective. That's what Oda is going for, okay? And a lot of this stuff ties back to Greek and Roman mythology, which, I'm all for, so I've discussed this as well. So we have the Lunarians, of course, that represents lunar, so moon, and then we have the Gorosei, St. J. Garcia Saturn, who is Saturn. The ancient weapons are all named after, planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, or Pluton, or Poseidon is Neptune. The other Gorosei are probably named after, like, St. Jupiter, St. Mars, St. Mercury, that kind of situation. Luffy is the sun. The moon are the Lunarians. Earth, Mother Earth, Mother Nature, Mother Sea or Ocean, whatever. Okay, Gaia. Okay, so there's references here to space. Okay, so is that maybe a hint that with the, stars and moon and, the sun and everything that Shanks is wearing, is that a reference to him having a connection with that? Okay, in which case, maybe he was still born in the West, but his birth, his parents, his family lineage is a little bit more significant than just being, like, just a normal kid that was found by Roger and raised by the King of the Pirates. Like, there's something else going on here with Shanks's lineage factor, so to speak, his birthright, whatever it might be, right? Okay, actually, now that I'm thinking about this, other angle, the Tenryubito and the Gorosei know a lot more about this stuff than the average person in the One Piece world, right? Okay, and so they would obviously know more stuff about the Lunarians or anything more cosmic and everything like that. So I don't know. The Gorosei in particular would know about this. Eam might have some kind of clairvoyant abilities, might be able to see other parts of the world, it might be like close, their eyes and be like, I sense something. A child is going to be born in the West Blue. A child with the blood of a king or the blood of the dragon or something like that, you know what I mean? And so what if it was a situation where it wasn't the island where Shanks was born was like, you need to, fork over the heavenly tribute. We don't have the heavenly tribute. I'm sorry, we're a little short this month. Well, give us your child. They're like, no! And then they have to give up Shanks. What if it's a situation where the government directly, like, ordered that? Like the government stormed in, like Cypher Pole stormed in or something on Shanks' island, hometown in the West Blue, and it's like, that is the child with red hair that the, the prophecy said would be born here, you know what I mean? I know in this kind of version of events, I'm kind of making Shanks out to be kind of like Jesus, which, it's just like, well, yeah. Anyway, so, the government, like, Eam sees this, and then the Gorosei issue an order, like, we will bring this child to God Valley for a purpose, and then they bring, the child to God Valley, and then Roger shows up, and they don't expect that, and, like, fate lines up perfectly, and Roger and Garp are there, and they, have this big epic battle with Rox's crew, and then at the end of all of this, Roger finds a treasure chest, and maybe Shanks just crawled into it. Maybe Shanks was just there as a baby. Oh my god, I'm picturing this scenario where there's the most epic war that has probably ever been fought. Okay, second most epic, because the Void Century War was probably the most epic war in all of One Piece. But after the Void Century War, we have the God Valley battle, okay? With Roger and Garp in their prime fighting against Rox and Whitebeard and Big Mom and Kaido, okay? All this kind of crazy stuff happening. These insane attacks are going on. And then you just have baby Shanks just wandering, crawling through the battlefield. You know, like Roger's there, just like, you know, heavenly returns! And Whitebeard's like, go, go, go! And, you know, Garp is just punching mountains apart, giant explosion. Shanks is just there, like, goo, goo, gaga, like falling down, and just like, you know, Whitebeard has his Bicento, has Murakumogiri, and he's like, you know, Skyquake Slicer, and he spins. There's this giant shockwave that blows everybody down, like it's blowing up heads and everything like that. And then Shanks is just there, like, goo goo, and like looks down on the ground, and the shockwave passes right over him. And it's just a bunch of nonsense like that, like while this epic war of ages is being, you know, happening in the background. Eventually, he tumbles his way into a treasure chest, and then that's how he ends up on the Oro Jackson. Yeah, that's wow. Okay, yeah, that I kind of want that to be the series of events now. Now what about Buggy? Because like Buggy is the same age as Shanks, so it's like, you know what? Honestly, they found Buggy in a treasure chest. Sure, same as Shanks, same as Uta. You know, it's like, okay, matey, I guess we have a child now. All right, Rayleigh, we be parents. Great. And then they sail to the next island, and they found another treasure chest, and they open it up, and it's like, darn it, there's another baby in this one. Who keeps putting all these babies in treasure chests? This one has a clown nose. All right, I guess we're adopting this kid too. And then they just, that's the story, basically. Buggy was confirmed to be born on the Grand Line, though, so that actually is already kind of established. At some point, Roger had to find Buggy. I mean, it might have been years later. It might have not have been when Buggy was a literal baby. It could have been when Buggy was like a kid, but Shanks and him are the same age, and they were there fighting, you know, when Odin was on the crew and everything like that. So, yeah, that's the story of the origin of red-haired Shanks. So let me know down below on what you make of that, and how did he end up in God Valley, or at God Valley, in the treasure chest? Did it have something to do with the Tenryubito, the heavenly tribute? Was you know, Eames sensing Shanks as like the prophecy child or something, or was it just sheer happen chance the entire way? Let me know. But anyway, now we're gonna be going on to Snake Facts. All right, so on today's episode of Snake Facts, we are talking about the king of all snakes, of course, the King Cobra. Oh, yes. The King Cobra is the largest snake in the entire world, hence the name King Cobra, native to India, Southeast Asia, that general area there. And it's so big, it could grow to 18 feet long, so this snake could literally lift itself up and be eye level with you. And I'm a short human. I'm only 5'5", so if you're 6 feet even, this snake might be able to lift its head up, and so you could see right in the eyes of this snake. They're usually pretty, you know, meek and shy, though. They're not gonna like run right up to you and like, you know, bite you unless they're provoked. So, you know, if you ever see a king cobra in the wild, just don't provoke it. They do have vulnerable status right now, so they not as bad as all the rhinos, but still not doing that great. They might be the king cobra and the largest snake in the world. However, they are not the most venomous. We'll get to that one later. I actually do not know which one is the most venomous. I just know from Kill Bill Volume 2, it's the Black Mamba, but then that movie came out in like 2000 and like, I don't know, 5, 6. So, you know, maybe we might have found another more venomous snake since then. But last time I checked, it was the Black Mamba. But that's what Snake Facts is about, right? So, yeah, not the most venomous. But because it's so big and it can inject just a mammoth amount, gargantuan. It's just insane word. You don't get to use it that much in a sentence. But because it's so large, it injects a gargantuan amount of venom into the person. You could die in less than 30 minutes if it's an untreated bite, and if the bite is in a really bad place. Like if you get bit in the arm or the leg, maybe if you tie a tourniquet around, I mean, you might lose that arm or leg, but you might be able to make it out. But if you get bit in the chest or the neck or the face, you know, unless that happens in the parking lot of a hospital, you probably most likely die in the next 30 minutes or less. So it's like a pizza delivery, except you die. Yeah, actually, the venom is so potent that a single dosage, like an injection of this stuff, could kill up to 20 people people, undiluted, or 1 elephant. So you got to make the choice there. 20 people or 1 elephant. Yeah. But yeah, that's the king cobra. Pretty big. It has its trademark hood. So that's, of course, if it gets agitated, like if it's in its den and it's cornered and it has its eggs and you get close to the snake, you might see it flare up its hood just like, hey, get away from me. Although I got to say, I love how most pictures of the king cobra and most pictures of snakes in general, they just seem to have the expression of, hey, what's up? How you doing? Stay away from me. Don't want to bite you. You know, that's basically kind of the expression they all have. It's just like, hey, man, what's going on? Stay back. You know, and that's snakes. Okay. Well, anyway, thanks for watching the video, everybody. This will be Teching signing out. Later, everyone. I'm going to go join that rave.